The craziest thing to me is that this diagram, which only represents the last 200 years of your ancestry, or 7 generations ago, contains 127 romantic relationships. So you are the product of those 127 romances just in the last 200 years alone. This diagram only goes 5 generations farther back than the one previously, and look at the insanity that took place. 10 generations, you have 1,024 ancestors, 11 generations, 2,048, and 12 generations ago, 4,096 ancestors. These are your 10th great-grandparents who were alive in the 1600s. Just imagine, most of them were probably your age right now. You can see why it's not really that much of a surprise when someone tells you that they are descended from famous royalty who lived a few hundred years prior. Look how many people you're descended from only about 300 years back. Within that top section, there's probably some royalty, in addition to some peasants, scholars, warriors, painters, prostitutes, murderers, and lunatics, and any other kind of person who existed back then. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. Here on Mortal Faces, I untangle family trees and talk a little bit about them, and in this video, we are going to be talking about the Pedigree Collapse. So thank you for watching, subscribe for more videos, and let me know in the comments who you want me to cover next. You may also be noticing that there is something that doesn't make sense about the way these numbers are zooming up exponentially. We're at 4,096 going back 3 centuries, and continuing at that rate, our ancestors' number goes like this. That puts you at 68 billion ancestors around 1100 AD. The reason that's problematic is that the world population goes like this. So how do we explain this? With a concept called Pedigree Collapse, which is what happens when people end up with a mate who is somewhat or very closely related to them. To put it in another way, instead of consisting of all different individuals, a tree might have multiple places occupied by a single individual. This typically happens when the parents of an ancestor are related to each other, sometimes unbeknownst to themselves. For example, the offspring of 2 first cousins has at most 6 great-grandparents instead of the usual 8. The reason for this is that most of human history, people spent most of their lives in the same 5-mile radius, and the other people in that same area tended to be immediate and extended family. To get away from their extended family when courting, men would have to walk over 5 miles away, which after a long day of hunting and working, you just don't really feel like doing. Small isolated populations, such as those of remote islands, represent extreme examples of pedigree collapse where you have a population of only hundreds, but the common historical tendency to marry those within walking distance due to the relative immobility of the population before modern transport meant that most marriage partners were at least distantly related. Even in America around the 19th century, the tendency of immigrants to marry amongst their ethnic, language, or cultural group produced many cousin marriages. Because of pedigree collapse, if you extend your family tree way back, it would begin to get smaller, resulting in a diamond shape. The widest point of the ancestor cone happens for most of us around 1200 AD, when our family tree is near the total world population at the time. From that point on, pedigree collapse becomes a stronger factor than the normal upward 2 times multiplier, and the tree converges inwards. The number of cousins you have grows exponentially as the degree of distance goes up. You may have a small number of first cousins, but you likely have hundreds of third cousins, thousands of fifth cousins, and over 1 million eighth cousins. In any case, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of fourth and fifth cousins, and you're probably friends with some of them without realizing it. You might even be dating one of them. The future, your descendant cone. Maybe you won't have children, or maybe your children won't have children, but barring those possibilities, you're likely to end up being either the great patriarch or matriarch of a descendant cone that will eventually make up a sizable chunk of the human race. In its first couple hundred years before expanding into the thousands, it might look something like this. Let's take a closer look at one of your hundreds of great-great-great-great-great grandchildren. Little Olivia, born right around the year 2300, is as much a mystery to you as your ancestors from the early 1800s up above. She owes her life to you, and somewhere in her personality is a trait or two of yours, including the good, the bad, or even hereditary diseases, but that's the extent of your connection. Now, so far in this video, you've gotten to enjoy being featured as the key person in all the family trees we've drawn. You've been the child that thousands of romances have aligned perfectly together to produce. You've been the centerpiece of a large extended family with rings of siblings and cousins around you, and now you're the great founder of a vast cone of descendants. But all you have to do is shift the perspective, and suddenly you're one of some 17th century guy's 10,000 descendants. You're someone's second or third or fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh cousin. And to Olivia, you're no grand patriarch or matriarch. You're an unbelievably random tiny stick figure high up on her ancestors' cone. Most of those people on the top line are alive today, and you have no idea who's standing there on Olivia's top line with you. That guy who works at the coffee shop might be her great-great-great-great-great-grandparent too, and the two of you are just two of her hundreds of nameless, forgotten ancient ancestors. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Lots more family trees on my channel. Subscribe for more trees. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow. It allows me to continue making more content for you. Let me know in the comments who you want to see next. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.